Kingdom Come Deliverance was an amazing game. It was a perfect medieval simulator, a game where you're literally no one and you have to work your way through becoming a man. Part of the beauty was that, yes, you have to work your way through and basically anything could kill you in this world. It was a very difficult game to progress because everything is dangerous to an inexperienced Henry that does not know anything about the world. However, once you start gearing up, you get more skills, you know how to traverse the open world without being scared by the bandits, ambushes and stuff like that. You have such a beautiful medieval open world that you can explore at your leisure. That said, what is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 going to do to improve that, to make it better? Well, nothing different really, and I'm actually quite okay with that. I love that they are giving us second parts of amazing games where it's just more stuff similar to the one that that made the first one amazing, and in KCD 2 it's just going to be amazing because of that. So let's talk about what was Warhorse Studios when they made the original game. At that time, they had little less than 100 people working on the game, and sure, they overbid a little bit. To be honest, on the game's release, there were plenty of bugs, and many of those bugs, they were game-breaking bugs where people were losing about like 100 hours of playtime because they just couldn't continue, and some of them have not been fixed at the moment, not that I'm aware of. Just yeah, there's that, especially on the Xbox release. Despite that, Kingdom Come Deliverance was still such a huge success, and one of the best modern RPGs out there. The Warhorse Studios has now over 250 developers, which is little more than the double they had with the original, and a whole lot more experience now. It is mentioned in interviews that many of those developers are original developers that have been with the company for about 10 years. They also said that they are not just some random punks trying to push out a game, but they are experienced people now that they know what they are doing, because they wanted to avoid some of the launch hiccups, and for some people very trouble launch the first one had. And that's very important, because they were budget and manpower limited with what they wanted to make with the first game. A lot of the things that they dreamed of to have in their game, in their own words, they can achieve now. Beyond that though, there's a whole bunch of great new features that we can expect, like for example, just to mention one of them, blacksmithing for crafting minigames, where you have to mind the rhythm, the blade color and such to produce something, to produce a blade, which is something that they wanted to include in the first one, but they just couldn't because they were manpower and budget limited. For continuing, a little small tiny word from today's sponsors, Naxi, a rewards app where you can get cool rewards just by playing. You can earn gift cards that you can spend on Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam, because if you're gonna be playing something on your free time, might as well just get something out of it, right? Download on Android right now. You can find links in the video description so you can start piling up those games. Now you'll notice that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 looks fairly similar to that of the original one, and that's because they are using the very same engine, the Cry engine. In other places, the game will feel like an enhanced version of the first one, because many of the assets pipelines are taken from the first one. That ensures a smoother developing process, and it's not the first time that we see companies do such a thing. Having something already made and just having to upgrade on it and work on top of it, it's of course going to give a much better graphical quality and fidelity. However, they did say that they do not think that the game has aged bad, the first one. And improvements when it comes to the graphical quality of the game are just not going to be huge, because the first one doesn't really look that bad. And yeah, to some extent, I agree that the first one has aged quite decently. I do believe that compared to more games, KCD 2 looks, more new games, KCD 2 looks like it's falling a tiny little bit behind. It still looks gorgeous though, but I mean, yeah, it is what it is. It is going to look quite similar to the first one, and if you have an issue with that, then that's going to continue being an issue to some extent. Now, if you're a new player, you should consider playing the first one if you have the chance, because this is a direct sequel and continuation to the 2018 title. KCD 2 takes place right after the events of KCD 1, however, it is not necessary to know the first game to fully enjoy the sequel. While the old-time fans will feel right at home, we put a lot of effort into adding enough info and guidance that will bring new players up to speed. However, the game quite literally starts where the first left off. So, Henry being a knight instead of just your regular Joe, or the castle siege, why are they at war, how did it come to happen. I mean, yeah, they can bring you up to speed, but in my opinion, you should really play the first if you have not yet. It's really worth to do such a thing right now that the game is just right around the corner. Now, speaking about that, I remember that if you were to explore and just forget about the main story, do side quest exploration, the first game could give you up to 100 hours of content. Here the game is twice the size of the first map, that is to say the same of encounters, the same amount of encounters, like the double of encounters, the side of content to do. They also said something that piqued my interest in an interview. Remember that when CD Projekt Red said that every single room for every single building you would see would be explorable on Cyberpunk 2077? I mean, yeah, I was a dumbass for believing that, but it's just that that's what they said. Here, Warhorse Studios is saying that they are going house to house on development into every building, including cellars, to make sure that everything is as well represented and explorable and interactable as it could be. And yeah, you cannot compare the Night City, the city of Gothenburg and Minor Tones, to that of Night City from Cyberpunk 2077, but still, it's quite a lot to do. And if you like to explore, you like to be thorough, you're really keen into exploration, well, KCD 2 will be very rewarding if you like to do such a thing, I should like to say. Now, on that regard, the world will react to you in many more ways. First, they said that if you see an NPC carrying a bucket of water, they're doing something with it. They have a program routine, and they are complex routines. Every NPC has their own house to return to, and if they don't have in the city, then they leave early before dark to get to their houses. Think like the NPC complexity that we can see in Red Dead Redemption 2, where if you follow NPCs, you will notice that they have whole days routines. Not sure they'll manage the amount of depth, that amount of depth, but one interesting thing is that in this regard is that much like the first one, again, the world will react to you and how you look and how you are and the relationships and reputations that you have with people. If someone sees you murdering someone in front of their eyes, they can confront you. But if you look like a knight, you're using the finest armor money can buy, you're using like the finest weapons and such, they'll just either completely shut up because they're going to be scared of you, or they can run to the god, depending on how menacing you look. If, on the other hand, they just happen to pass by, you kill someone before they got there and see you all covered in blood, they might connect the crime to you, and again, those RPG elements checks have to go through again. And if you manage to get away, everyone lived, there was no major issue, that NPC will remember you, and whenever you come back, they will be more cautious about you. Combat system is also one of the aspects that I like the most on KCD, but not a lot of people did. It required a lot of finesse, parrying, blocking, dodging, all at the same time while changing the directional system for attacks and blows, and while you were at max level, the best gear you could possibly find, fighting 3 people at once was nearly a death sentence. Not only did you have to manage the people fighting you, but you also have to manage the grounds. You could use obstacles to prevent people from fighting you, and if you were out in the open field, very realistically, you were in such a trouble. But if you were in town, you were using like the corners to manage the amount of people that you're fighting, and that would be more manageable. But if you also have archers, yeah, that would be very difficult as well if you were fighting in the open. Then again, if you have like obstacles to protect yourselves from the arrows, all of that was very realistic. It was very immersive, but it was way too difficult and too complex to some people to care about that. In KCD 2, you have more weapon types if you really want to dive into the combat mastery, swordplay. If you just want to breeze through combat, you do not want to struggle, just use maces and axes, and that's going to simplify the combat system that much more. But you also have crossbows, bows, and firearms, so there's a whole lot more diversity in here when it comes to how you approach not only the worlds, the combat, and how you talk to people, and how you feel yourself as a man. One of the biggest aspects that I like about KCD 1 was you were just a regular Joe. You would have to struggle to become a man, to become a knight. Here, yeah, I mean, Henry is already a knight, but they are saying that, well, they are making the comparison to the first game. You were becoming a boy to a man. Here, you become a man to a knight. So there's still quite a lot of improvements when it comes to the character development and such things. It just sounds amazing, dude. Everything sounds amazing. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If no one told you today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, have a beautiful day, goodbye.